So what we're going to do is generate a database diagram. I showed you how to identify primary keys and foreign keys by looking at the columns in a table. And we said that the foreign keys are used, they are actually primary keys in another table. The way that we use foreign keys is we use them to connect our tables so they can share data. And the best way to see these connections is by creating something called a database diagram. And what I'm going to do after default account number, so I'm just going to press enter a couple times, and I'm going to key in a little heading, AP database diagram. And this is where I am going to copy and paste the database diagram that I'm going to generate for my AP table. So at this point, I'm going to save this. And I'm going to come over into here, and I'm going to maximize this. And I'm going to go ahead and close this little query because we don't need it. And I'm going to go to the top of AP, and I'm going to click right on database diagrams. Now, normally, if I click on that or I click the plus sign, I get this little window, and it says that the database doesn't have any objects that is for database diagramming. Basically, it's just telling you it doesn't have one. Do you want to create it? I do want to create it. What happens if you don't get this message? All right, what you can do is you can right click on database diagrams and you can choose new database diagram. Okay, that will give you the message and you want to say yes. And then what you should see are the tables. A little add table window. And you want to add all of them. So right now, contact updates is highlighted. So I'm going to hit add. And then I'm going to add GL accounts, invoice archive. I'm going to keep adding until I have all of the tables added. And then I'm going to close. And so what this does is it creates a database diagram and it shows you which tables are connected to each other. Now I'm noticing these are not connected to anything else, but I'm going to move them down here by dragging the title bar. So I'm just left dragging here because I need a screenshot of this. And I need to move these tables so I can get them in one screen. So you can actually move these around. So that they fit better on your screen. So right now I can see everything I need to. These two tables do not have foreign keys. So they are not connected to any of the other tables. But we have our vendor table that we were looking at earlier. And remember, we had terms ID and account number that were foreign keys. And you can see that we are connecting to GL accounts. Account number is the primary key here. So default account number is connecting to account number. And then we have default terms ID, which is connecting us to the terms table. Terms ID is the primary key, okay, and that corresponds to the default terms ID. You'll notice that foreign keys do not have to be named the same as the primary key. What has to be the same is the data. Okay, so it's the data that matters. So if we have terms 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's all that we can have in here. And if we have account numbers 1 through 50, that's all that we can have in here. Okay, so we use our foreign keys to connect tables. You will be learning a lot more about that as the course progresses. Then you can look at the terms table and you can see the primary key. That's pretty visible, but you can see that it is connecting to two tables. We know that it connects to vendors. It's also connecting to invoices. Okay, so if we look through invoices, I would expect to see the terms ID somewhere in here, and we can see it. So it's connecting to invoices and vendors based on the terms ID. Then invoices is also connecting to invoice line items. So if we look in invoice line items, we can see that invoice ID is in both. And so this is a little unique situation where invoice ID is a primary key, but it is also a foreign key. It is how we are connecting these two tables. The other thing that this diagram shows you is the type of relationship between the tables. And we will be talking about that a lot more in upcoming weeks as well. But you'll notice that some of the tables have a key at the end of the connecting line and an infinity symbol at the other end. So we have a key and an infinity symbol, a key and an infinity symbol. Okay, so we know the tables are related, and the key and the infinity symbol are actually telling us more about the relationship. The key indicates one, and the infinity indicates many. So the relationship between terms and vendor is that one term ID can be used by many vendors. So if we had terms IDs 1 through 5, term ID number 1 can be on multiple vendors. Term ID 2 can be used by multiple vendors. Okay, that's what it means. And then we look at terms and invoices, and it's the same thing. The terms is 1 and invoices is many. That means that term ID 1 can be on many different invoices. Term ID 2 can be on many different invoices. If we look at vendors and invoices, okay, you'll notice vendors is the 1 and invoices is the many. And then you'll notice that vendor ID is listed in the invoices table. So it is the foreign key here. It's the primary key here, foreign key here. One vendor, let's say vendor number 1, which I believe was the US Postal Service, okay? That can be on more than one invoice. Vendor number 2, let's say that was IBM. IBM can be on more than one invoice. Okay, that's what one to many means. So what we're going to do with this, because this diagram to me is probably the easiest way for you guys to see how tables are related, and you can see all the columns quite easily. So what we're going to do is do a screenshot of this. Now there's a lot of different ways you can do screenshots. I think the snipping tool is probably the easiest. And I think they have a replacement for this now in Windows. So if you have a little different tool, if it's named differently, that's okay. You can use it. I'm going to go ahead, select new, And when I select new, everything kind of gets overlaid in white. And then I'm just going to drag over the area that I want to keep. Okay, and if I make a mistake, I can just hit new and drag it again. Okay, but this looks good. This is what I want to put in my Word document. So I'm going to go to edit and copy. I'm going to click the minus sign and go over to Word. Make sure my insertion mark is below my little AP database diagram heading. And I'm going to click on paste. Okay, and that will retrieve your diagram. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Now, there are some questions we need to answer regarding this diagram. So let's go back out here. And we'll copy and paste these headings. And I'm going to maximize this because now I have the diagram here to look at. Terms table primary key. So here's my terms table, and my primary key is terms ID. Okay, I'm going to do the first couple with you, and then I think you guys are going to have the hang of this, so I'm going to let you do the rest on your own. Tables related to the terms table. Okay, so these are the ones that are connected to by those join lines. So the tables that are related are vendors and invoices. The terms table primary key data type. Hey, this is super tricky, right? Because we know the primary key is terms ID, but we can't see the data type from here. So that means we need to go back into SSMS, click the plus sign next to terms, click the plus sign next to columns, and it is integer. Okay, what you're going to be doing is basically the same thing, but you're going to do it for invoice line item. And so if you look up here on invoice line item, you'll notice that there are two primary keys. So you're going to have to indicate the name of both of the keys. You are going to have to look to see what tables are connected and fill that in. And then when you get to the data type, you're going to have to go back into SSMS and expand out invoice line items and columns in order to see the data type for those two primary keys. And then the last part of this assignment is totally on your own because at this point, we've already done these tasks. So you should be able to handle task 3 on your own. And what I would do for task 3 is copy all of these just as they are. Okay, so after you've finished filling in task 2, copy and paste task 3, and then fill in your answers. Save your changes. And then you will be uploading to the Dropbox. And if you have not done that before, let's see if I can quick show you. We need to kind of find the Dropbox for the Chapter 2 textbook assignment. and then you're going to click on it, and you're going to want to add submission. Now make sure you have saved this, and I think it's easier if you actually close it. And what I think is easiest is if you drag the file into the Dropbox. So let me see if I can quick find my document folder. Here's my 178. There's my file. So I'm going to have this handy over here. And I'm going to add a submission. Okay, see how we have a little arrow there? All I have to do is left drag this into this area and release. Save my changes. Okay, and once you see submitted for grading, you should be good to go.